There's nothing like cracking that cellophane and pulling that record out. It just smells great.
Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Non-stop hardcore energy.
I love the show, guys. You're awesome.
Unlike any other.
With your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather.
Man, this stuff rocks.
Hey, this is Andrew from She, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
The views and opinions of the guests do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of BODS Mayhem Hour, its staff, affiliates, or sponsors. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I am your host, John the Bod, aka the Bodfather, and as always, I bring you guys and gals awesome interviews. Today, it's an honor and a huge privilege to welcome Andrew Sims of the band She and the Anchorage, Alaska hardcore punk outfit self-release their album entitled Goodpaster on June 16th. And you want to also check out other singles such as that's been released from this album: Arguments in Space, Protocol Assimilator, and Died in the War. So we're going to be talking to Andrew about all this. So Andrew, welcome to the podcast, and how you doing, my man?
I'm doing good. I just got off work and starting the weekend. It's nice here in Anchorage. Finally, it started to become summer. That's nice.
Oh God, that's gotta be good because the cold weather and darkness, night shit. It's like, get out of here, go.
Nah, pretty much.
How did this band form on Halloween night in 2008? Tell me how all this came together.
So we had a friend who still runs shows in a production company called Showdown Production. She's part of it. Her name's Helen. And she used to run a place called the Downstairs. And they used to host all ages punk shows, and hardcore is a part of punk, and metal as well. It kind of all blends together for the most part for me, as far as I'm concerned. But she was having a band up called Trash Talk, and our guitarist Mercy was speaking with her and said that we would have a band together. And this was like 3 weeks before they were supposed to play. And so we had our first practice October 31st, 2008. And then the show was like November 22nd, I think. And so we pretty much just started practicing, and we wrote like 7 songs. We pretty much had a 15-20 minute set. Bands like Trash Talk and Ceremony were like pretty big then, and I was very into that kind of spastic, kind of like stripped down kind of punk hardcore, and we all were. And so we wrote just a batch of songs and played them, and that's kind of how it started.
The ultimate sin just said, we're going to have a band in the next 2 weeks, and we'll be right here. And then here we are
later.
Now, hailing from Anchorage, Alaska, and being a hardcore punk band, is it hard to get shows and have that support for the band locally at that time or anything, or no?
At that time, there seemed to be a little bit more of an interest. There were a few more bands that were kind of along those same lines. I mean, deathcore and stuff like that, like Acacia Strain, and a lot of those bands were kind of big, and like, kids were into that. And so there were definitely a few bands along those lines. Insofar as like hardcore is concerned, I mean, I feel like the punk scene used to be a little bit more alive. Right now, you get a lot of folk punk and stuff. So like back then, it didn't really seem too difficult. We pretty quickly developed kind of a reputation for having pretty wild shows where shit got, destroyed and stuff. And so there were like certain venues or house shows that wouldn't want to have us, which I get. But nowadays it's like we've had pretty legitimate support from the community throughout the tenure of our band. I mean, there were times when we weren't really particularly active because some of us were living in Seattle or Albuquerque or Spokane or, Texas. I mean, we were just kind of spread out. And so we'd play some sporadic shows. We'd get together, have one practice, and play a house show or, a set or something like that. And it was always kind of like a thing. And also being in Anchorage, we always really, I would say, gravitated, but I mean, it was kind of a necessity to have like mixed genre shows, so that there'd be a punk band, there'd be an indie band, there'd be a metal band, and then there'd be us or something along those lines, just kind of out of necessity to fill the bill, because you can't really have just a hardcore show or a metal show, or it becomes more difficult for that. And we've also always really, not always, but I mean, we really like to have all ages shows because we like to, I don't know. I'd rather play to a bunch of enthusiastic people ranging from, 18 or, even like 16 or something like that to 40, 50, whatever, than, a bunch of people that are there just drinking and getting wasted. And that's more the focus than the music.
Yeah.
Is like the social aspect and like drinking. So like, I'd rather people be more enthusiastic about the music and therefore that than, socializing and stuff like that.
Now, this band has never released a full-length album. Have you been just waiting for that right time and the backing to do so, or has it just been where everybody's been spread out so much?
Before we all kind of collectively moved to Seattle, like late 2010 or 11 or 12, I can't remember. It was so long ago, but we all moved down there. And just before we did, we actually recorded our entire output up to that point, and we self-released a full-length record and a split full-length that I think we had 5 songs on, and they were just kind of self-released things. And we used to have those up on a Bandcamp, but we took them down actually a month and a half or 2 months ago because it just wasn't an accurate representation of where we are as musicians and artists. And we recorded it all ourselves in a cabin out past a city called Wasilla, and it near Big Lake, which I mean, but we recorded it in a cabin. We kind of did everything ourselves. We've always been pretty DIY. And then, we did this split, all recorded from the same session. We did this split and with another Anchorage band that's long defunct. But I mean, they weren't accurate representations of us. We never broke up.
Yeah.
We were kind of like spread thin. And when we were kind of back together and really writing and wanting to like do it, more, with more gusto, I guess, we recorded the 12-inch EP that we released last year. Shame's most effective tool in the human arsenal. We recorded that with like a local Anchorage musician who wasn't really like into hardcore or metal really, like, or the sort of like, he was more into like Fall of Troy and like Mars Volta and things like that, and he didn't really like. I go back and I listen to it and I'm just like, oh, I don't even want to listen to it. But I mean, I think that kind of happens with a lot of bands. The material's fun, but a lot of the material's old, and we've just kind of moved past that. And this Goodpaster was the first really truly cohesive batch of songs that we've written, like as an entity, not just like almost like a compilation of different songs from different eras or over the years, and let's put all these together. This was written as like a piece.
Yeah. How excited are you to have yet another single entitled "Dyed in the Wool" released off this upcoming debut album. And how excited are you guys to see this finally coming to fruition?
We're incredibly excited. I mean, the singles we kind of chose were kind of like pretty good representations of the album as a whole. But I mean, it's a 27-minute long record with a minute something long intro and then, 20 seconds at the end. So it's really like a 25-minute long record with, of 12 songs, I think. And some of them are under a minute. Like I really like looking at like song lengths, especially on the record. And you're like, oh, 1 minute. Oh, 1 minute 30. Oh, 2 minutes, 20 seconds. Oh, 3 minutes. And when they vary, it's kind of like, oh, wow, that's pretty interesting. Like, between us, we have so many different influences, which I've always really found great. Like from hip hop to jazz to, old school metal, classic rock, hardcore, punk. Like it all melds. And I feel like, we write in the same room. Like somebody will maybe bring something to the table that they've written or worked on, but all the songs it's not like somebody comes with a song and is like, hey, I've written this. Let's play this. It's always like working the parts and molding them to something kind of cohesive that gets the point across. And then, people being like, oh, we should play this shorter. We should play this longer. This isn't working, or we should have a part in between. We're really excited. We put a lot of work into this, and we've kind of like, it's not like putting all the eggs in a basket isn't really the right kind of analogy, or metaphor or whatever. But it's kind of what we've done. We've kind of thrown everything at the board. And we wrote this piece that, it's art. We really do kind of stand by that. Is that, it's hardcore, and there are meat-headed elements to it or something like that. But we really tried to make something that is beautiful first and foremost, but an expression of our collective selves and what we've kind of accomplished over the years as a band together.
The single "Dyed in the Wool" was written while you were in a particularly negative space. Let's talk about that a little bit. How'd that come together for you?
I've always written. I have a literature degree, and now I install fireplaces. I'm a journeyman gas fitter. So yeah, get a college degree, but make sure it's in something, a little bit more lucrative. But I've always read and I've always written, and they're lyrics, but first and foremost, they're poems, and I bring them to the table. And I'll generally have, a group of, or a batch of things that I've written that I kind of pick and choose. I'm like, okay, this could work here, or this could work here, or I'd like to use this one, this length that doesn't work, so maybe I can switch to this. And so I always try to just have, batches of songs. And I have a couple of other music projects that, kind of warrant different stylistic and thematic approaches to the lyrics. But She has always been the one where I kind of had more room to be a little bit more vulnerable with myself and my mental health and emotional stability. And I'm able to explore that a lot more than, say, I have another project called Heal, and that's kind of like a blackened, like death metal grindcore project. So it's like heavier. And so, a lot of those thematics are darker. But this one, I really explore my mental health and my upbringing, and just kind of explore how I tend to view the world, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And, I feel like if anybody that's into aggressive music or hardcore metal, punk, anything like that, I think most people that are into it are pretty familiar with depression, with anxiety, with, those sorts of things. And I think that particularly in the past few years, just prior to the pandemic, but, during the pandemic and the result of it, I think that people have become a lot more aware of and explorative of mental health, particularly in males. I think that that's kind of come about and become there's been more of a light shown on it. And, females and other genders have probably been telling us for many, many years that we need to talk to somebody, get checked out, or, but now I think that like it's become much more prevalent that, people are really, really looking into their mental health. And, it's not anything to ever be ashamed of. It's something to like explore and really look into, and you can get a lot of like good out of it. But not only that, we can help one another and not allow, all this shit to just get pent up. And then you have, like all these shootings and everything all around the country, and it's bullshit, and people really need to check their mental health. And if we just check in on one another and like really, turn the mirror on yourself and not just shy away from it or run away from it or, sweep shit under the rug. If you really like consider yourself and your surroundings and what's going on with you and your friends and acquaintances mentally, and we're more considerate to both our peers and one another, but also like considerate to ourselves and stuff, I think that it can like really be beneficial to us societally. And so that's kind of what the song is about. It's about, I was in a bad place and, I mean, suicidal ideation, anything of that. I mean, it's pretty rampant in metal and hardcore and, depression, anxiety. Like I was saying, it's just, if you can look at it and you can take that negative energy and you can turn it into something positive, like you can create something like good for you, cathartic for you, but also for others. Because I mean, you want to set an example and you want to let others know that they're not alone, because that's what all of this is about. That's what metal and aggressive that's what the community is about. It's like, hey, you're not alone. Mm-hmm. I've always kind of felt that way. Like growing up, I didn't, you get all the jocks, you get all the rich kids, you get all that shit, and I always felt very alone. And then I found hardcore, I found metal, and that was where I really found my community.
See, man, you hit the nail on the head right there. I've said this for ages since I've been doing this, even when I was a little kid getting into music. If you ever feel like you're an outcast or you don't belong or nobody cares, you can find an album or a band out there and just cling on to them. And man, they're your best friends. They're the ones that's talking with you, doing those songs for you. They're the ones that, hey, I'm still here because of you.
Oh, 100%. I mean, like there was some of the first bands that I like really, really, really latched onto were like, Converge, Pig Destroyer, and some of those bands, like their lyrics, I was just reading them and I was like, holy shit, like I'm not the only person that feels this way, or like, wow, this is beautiful. This like, eloquently describes something that I feel but don't know how to quite put the words into. And yeah, it's just, it's important. It really is important, and you get, a bunch of fools that are just like, oh, like this music causes school shootings. It's like, no, motherfucker, this stuff prevents school shootings. Like this stuff, like saves kids. Like I know it saved me. Like I've become so much, I feel like I used to be so much more like angry, and I don't really feel like I'm still angry, right? Like, and I still like, get pissed off at society or the government or, things not working right or whatever. But I feel like I've become a lot more level-headed
Yeah.
as I've grown older, because I've had this outlet that like has very much become a part of me. And I feel like a lot of people that get into aggressive music, it becomes a major part of them.
Yep.
Like it's not something like when you latch onto it, you go, oh, this is a part of me. This is something that resonates with me. I feel like that's, pretty cool and pretty unique for this genre, or for these genres.
What led Protocol Assimilator to be the first song released off this upcoming debut album? What was it about that said that, we got to get this out now?
The songs weren't necessarily written in order, relatively close to the order that the album is actually, but not quite. It kind of is a pretty decent representation of kind of the sonic embodiment of the record as a whole, like where it kind of goes. It kind of, it has a fast part, has kind of a bridge, kind of a chuggy part, it has a punk part, and then like a, kind of a breakdown riff at the end. And I think we just really felt that it was a good representation of the album as a whole. And it's so funny because we released 3 tracks off of it now. And so there's still like 9 more or something like that people haven't heard. And those ones kind of go in like different directions, but Protocol Assimilator kind of had elements of a lot of them incorporated into its one thing.
So do you feel this album had to come out swinging for this band, do you think?
Yeah, in a lot of ways. It's actually kind of funny because it starts off with a sample. The Goodpaster is a river in Alaska, and my family has a cabin up there that was built in like 54, and it's very remote, but it's been very like close to who I am as a person. I mean, I was estranged from it for many years because it's remote. It's difficult to get to. You can't drive to it. You have to take a riverboat, and then beyond that, I mean, it's a 6-hour drive just to the river from here in Anchorage. So it's a long haul, and like, it's always kind of been like a sort of, I mean, I'm not a religious person, but it's always been kind of like a Mecca to me in a lot of senses. And so it actually starts with like a minute and a half of like a very soft riff and just a sample of the river, an audio sample of the river that my dad actually recorded. And so it doesn't really come out swinging, but then as soon as the album really actually starts, it doesn't really let up. And so, I mean, we wanted it to hit, and we wanted it to, I think Protocol Assimilator is the 4th. It's the 5th track on the record if you include the intro. We wanted it to hit and wanted, it's loud, it's fast, it's all over the place. But at this point in the game, it's like, we're a band from Alaska. Like, I mean, touring is like, that's a hurdle.
Yeah.
Even playing down in Seattle, like you got to fly, and then you got to worry about gear. Cause I mean, we're not going to drive through Canada to go tour. That seems silly. I mean, you go down, you either rent gear, you rent a van, and you do it that way. That seems like the more, prudent way to kind of, in the cost effective way to do things. But like, we're really counting on, this record, the material speaking for itself. And, that's why we recorded with Taylor Young, because he was kind of like the right fit for it. I mean, he's a powerhouse in hardcore and heavy music in general right now, death metal and stuff. He's a huge name, and he was really awesome. He was great to work with. What's the nucleus that keeps this band together and moving right along, Andrew? Well, I mean, we've been a band for 15 years, and I mean, we've, the 4 of us have been friends for just as long, if not longer for some of us. But friendship and It's tough to describe, but I mean, I guess it's like something that you have to do.
Yeah.
Like it's like sometimes I'll get sick of, working and then practice twice a week, and then I got practice with other bands, and then trying to just maintain life. And it's like, oh man, I don't want to go to practice or something like that. But then as soon as it's gone, or you don't have it for even like a month, you're just like, oh man, I miss that. Like you get this, you get something from it. It's a part of you. It's like there's a point where it becomes a part of you. And I think it's really interesting. Like a lot of bands like breaking up or whatever, and then in the past, like 5 years or something, 10 years, you've seen a lot of bands getting back together and playing these shows or playing tours or something, and being like, oh man, I really missed this. Why did we break up? And it's like, being in a band is hard. It's like having, you have your relationship or you have your partner, something like that. But then like you're in a band, and if you're a 4-piece, it's like you have 3 partners. They're like girlfriends or boyfriends or anything like that. I mean, everybody's got to be happy. If somebody's upset, you got to address it. If all that, it's a multifaceted thing. So like the nucleus has just been just love and friendship, and like really a collective kind of like necessity to like express ourselves and do that and create. Because we can all live life, but like I don't know, I've always felt that like if I'm not creating, like there's a part of me that's missing, that's like kind of like turning to dust, because then I'm just working and like playing video games or something,
Yeah. Was there a track for this album that totally ended up sounding different than what it was intended to, possibly? Was there one that kept changing, or no?
There's a track called Peace Tax that I've kind of said that I think it kind of has like a Rage Against the Machine kind of vibe to it.
Yeah.
But like it has a tapping part, and it just kind of keeps repeating. I think it's the longest track on the record, but it was that and the very last song, Headwaters of, those 2 tracks really took, like we were writing, and I mean the songs were written, but we were like really like figuring them out up until like 2 weeks before we left to LA, to Van Nuys, California, to record them with Taylor. And we were getting together like 3 times a week, and really we'd run the song. And those 2 tracks really have surprised me. Peace Tax in particular, I think we've all kind of collectively expressed that we really enjoy playing it live now, because you get these songs that are like minute bursts, minute and a half bursts. They're just like hardcore or very grindy, or metal, whatever kind of genre, punk. They're shorter, and then Peace Tax kind of happens like kind of in the middle of the record lengthwise, and it just kind of has this like hypnotic feel to it that just kind of like you can kind of get lost in it. And I think that's really cool. Kind of gives a break to us and the audience, and then it goes right back into more frenetic stuff. And then the last track, Headwaters of, like I was saying, it really has the only clean vocals on the record. And it's kind of a beautiful song. It kind of has that feel to it.
I know these are your guys' baby songs. I understand that. I understand it completely. But are there any tracks standing out more to you than any right now on this album, Andrew? Are there any standing out more to you than any right now?
So recently I've really enjoyed, like I said, playing Peace Tax live. Like that's a very fun one. Other than that, there's the track that ends the A side, Bullshit Portent. I really, really, really like that song. I think we all do. For different reasons. There's like a kind of simple part, but it just has this about halfway through the song. There's just a part that just like it's fun. It has like a cadence to it that's like you can really feel. It's really emotional. It was funny. We were recording with Taylor, and he called it like the the white guy punching drywall riff. It feels like there's just this. It's like it builds, and then there's just a break.
Yeah,
and there's a big the first side really blows by. The first side I think is like 12 minutes and 40 seconds, including that intro, but it just goes and goes and goes and goes and doesn't really let up. And then there's just like this release. You get this, you get a payoff about halfway through Bullshit Portent. And it's this very emotional part that I really connect with, and I don't get tired of playing it. I think that's like one of the things is like, if you don't get tired of playing the song,
yeah,
like maybe you have something.
yeah. You know it's good when you don't get sick of your own music. You know it's good.
Oh, believe me, man, I've gotten sick of songs. Like, I mean, this record, not really so far, because I mean, it's just every time we play it, like lately at practice, we want to start writing again, but most of our time has been spent on getting this record out, or being ready for any shows that we might have or whatever, and also just taking some time to ourselves and not practicing
Sure.
as much as we were before going and recording.
So any tracks that did not make this album we can see on another album, EP, or just a standalone single down the road, possibly?
No, not really. I mean, we have some riffs and some like skeletons of things, and I kind of have a backlog of lyrics that I have lyrics written for not another record. We don't really know what we're gonna do next. We're putting this out, and gonna start writing again, because I think we've kind of gotten to a point where we're all itching to kind of write and kind of like get back into that kind of creative framework and energy. And so, I mean, maybe we'll do a split or like another EP. I think that could be fun. Maybe a 7-inch EP. I mean, I don't know. I definitely want to continue releasing vinyl records. That's like been a major thing, because like there haven't been many musical projects alone, like let alone aggressive music projects up here in Alaska that have actually like put out vinyl records and like gone and like recorded like professionally and stuff, and really put the time, the money, the effort into that sort of thing. You get a lot of self-recorded things up here, but we wanted to do something just a step beyond, like, because I mean, we deserve it, and it's like we're just self-funding the whole thing. I mean, it's like, so it is a labor of love, and it's kind of scary too in that way, but at the same time, it's like this is ours.
Sure. Yeah.
And we did it like ourselves.
Yeah.
And so it's something that I think we're very proud of.
Now, you talked about this a little bit earlier, but is the track listing placement important for your album or EP releases, or no?
100%. It's really important. Like, gosh, what do they say? It's I mean, yeah, it's the flow of the record, but it's just like, yeah, track placement and how the tracks go into and out of one another when you give your audience like room to breathe.
Yeah.
When you just bombard them, like sometimes like that can play that track listing can just play such a, it's such a huge role. I mean, it's there's a narrative in it. Like, and particularly in this record, I mean, I feel like there's, it tells a story. Like, the story is kind of like abstract, but it definitely like tells a story of, like overcoming like mental blocks, and overcoming anxiety, overcoming depression, overcoming, creative differences and disparity, overcoming just like kicking your own ass all the time, and just trying to emerge from the other side of it just stronger, and break yourself down to put yourself back together, that sort of thing. But it's like a movie. I mean, you got to have the rising action, you got to have the climax, you got to have the falling action. I mean, if you blow your load too soon, like, well,
Oh,
shit,
yeah, it's over. Yeah, it's over. There's been some albums, and I'm not knocking anybody at all whatsoever, but there's been some albums, man, to where here lately it's just been 1,000 miles an hour. Then it sound like it's the same song, and it lasted 13, 14 tracks. I'm going, what happened here? What happened? You know what I'm saying? It's like, well, definitely wasn't no time taken. I'll say that.
Or even just like, people putting in filler or not like or excusing mediocre material and just keeping it on there. Like, sometimes you have to edit your damn self, and if you're not editing yourself, you're not really like creating to the fullest extent that you can. And it's also really annoying when the first, like, couple tracks are bangers, and then the back half of the record just falls flat or something. It's like, you shit the bed, like.
And in your own mind, you're going, well, this track should have went here, this one should have went here, and it's like, oh God, wow,
like, you really want to hold your audience's interest. So, like, if and like I said, just edit yourself and just really look at it as like a work of art. Like, what am I contributing to this genre that is special, or that can like further it, or that is like my understanding and like representation of it, and like, does it actually matter? If not, or if you question it, you should really go back to the drawing board a little bit and like really like hem it out,
Dude, I edit all my interviews. I put the time and effort into this. I feel like I'm part of that band that I'm interviewing just as much as anybody else. You know what I'm saying? Because I want a good product to put out for your interview, and I go back and I edit and I make sure that it sounds good. I take out all the dead air, the stuff like that, and I make it just like it's a good interview. That's what I want. It's like you're listening to a song. That's what you need to do.
If there's a part that's weak, yeah,
Take
clip it a bit, or maybe like consider playing it half as many times, and then it will actually show its strength. Like, sometimes you just get, and that's one thing that I really have always loved about hardcore in particular, and grind, is the songs are so succinct. Like, whereas, oh my gosh, you'll listen to some bands and stuff, and they play the freaking chorus 4 times.
Yeah.
And it's like, yo, I get that you dig it, but maybe you can play it twice, and the second time you play it in halftime, or like double it, or like, it's like you can really manipulate things so that it isn't just like, oh, verse, chorus, verse, bridge, chorus, and that's one thing that I really love about any band that edits themselves down and is like, if you have a part that you love, or a riff that you're just like, oh my gosh, dude, that's the riff, don't overplay it. Don't overplay it. You play it so that people want to listen to the song over again, instead of just like killing it in the song. And you're just like, oh, okay, you played that riff like 6 times, when if you'd have played it once it would have just been that little diamond there that people really cling to, that makes them press back and listen to that track again, you know?
So Taylor Young at the Pit Recording Studio produced this album, everything with it, man. How was working with him? Did he get something out of you guys that you think somebody else might not have gotten possibly?
Oh, totally. Taylor was, it was such a great experience. I mean, he knew what we wanted. Like, he listened to the EP, and I think he was kind of like, oh, what are these guys going to be like? But then, like, we went down there, and Justin Rada, our drummer, just like blasted through the drum track. Like, we booked 10 days of studio time there for the full length record. Rada just blew through and killed the drum tracks, just like right off. And then we had scratch tracks, and we immediately started doing vocals, because that was something that I was scared about. Was like, oh man, we're flying all the way down to LA. What if I blow my voice like on the first day, and then I just don't sound, maybe not like shit, but like maybe I don't have the inflection or like the range that, I should, because I, went too hard. But like, he knew about all of that. And it was like, he was a step ahead of us. And he, like, I think Rada doing the drum tracks, and he was just, I think there was like this weight off of all of our shoulders that was just kind of like, okay, yeah, we can do this. And then it was a great experience. It was like he was, it was like we'd worked with him for years. Like, he was so accommodating and just like understanding, and kind of like, not that we were like finishing each other's sentences or anything, but like there was like a common sentiment, and like he understood the urgency. He understood like the sound that we were really going for. He was awesome. All I have is praise for Taylor. He's an amazing recording engineer.
So we're going to throw she out the window here for just a few minutes, man. We're just going to focus on you, Andrew, on this question. If you could write an album equivalent to your band, to your favorite band's album, which album would that be?
Man, that's tough.
That's a banger.
I think one of the records, there's a couple that really stand out, and they were very formative for me. There are 3 bands that really changed how I viewed music, and that really like were huge for me insofar as aggressive music is concerned. And and I mean, you could really say it's 3 albums, but Pig Destroyers, Prowler in the Yard. I got into Converge very early, but I think probably the record that has stuck with me the most has been either When Forever Comes Crashing or You Fail Me. And then there's a band called Blacklisted. And Blacklisted's Heavier Than Heaven, Lonelier Than God is such an incredible record. If I were to say that, like, if I were to want to write a record that was like something akin or similar to something else, I think like Blacklisted's Heavier Than Heaven, Lonelier Than God, or Pig Destroyer's Prowler in the Yard would probably be the 2 that I immediately would be like, these records like mean something to me. And Converge does as well. I think I've kind of like fallen out of Converge in the past kind of decade. I mean, I got into them so young. Like, they were my favorite band. I have a Converge tattoo. Like, but their earlier material, and then I like argue, like, everybody really loves Jane Doe, but arguably, like, I think that You Fail Me is their best record. So like I guess you could say like if there were 3 records, it'd be like You Fail Me, Heavier Than Heaven, Lonelier Than God, and Prowler in the Yard. They really stand out as like, like that gold and gold. There isn't really a silver and bronze with regards to that, but as far as I'm concerned, but it's just I really gravitate towards albums, like full albums that are like cohesive and they like tell a story and like there's an atmosphere. You get involved in it. You get involved emotionally, sonically, like everything about it. It carries you from A to Z every step of the way. And it's just like every time you listen to it, you find something else. Like that's one thing. I actually had a literature teacher that said that great literature, one of the biggest qualities of it is that it can be interpreted in many different ways by many different people. And I've always kind of taken that to like many different facets and genres of art in general, because like it's something that somebody can get something out of, and then another person can get something completely different out of it, but it's still like beautiful and resonant with multiple people. It reaches an audience with many different faces.
If you could be a member in an iconic band and play one of their legendary shows, which band would it be and what show would it be?
Oh, man. That's a specific question.
Told you I'm bringing out the bangers this evening.
Part of me like even just like thinks about just that last Woodstock that they had, and they had the 9 Inch Nails set where they covered themselves in mud. I mean, that one's wild. Or even like, I think Rage Against the Machine played that set, and that was wild. I mean, the videos from that.
Woodstock 99.
Yeah, I think it was Woodstock 99. Okay, so there's there are three I guess things that kind of pop into my head. And it's Converge, Pig Destroyer, and Blacklisted. There's a Pig Destroyer set that's online on YouTube from CBGB's. I want to say it was like 2001 or 3 or something like that. Early 2000s. But J.R. Hayes cracks the microphone in half and continues screaming, and you can hear him over the guitars and everything.
Oh, wow.
And that video is so formative to me. So there's that set. I don't even know how packed the show was or anything like that. There's that. There's a Converge video off of their first DVD. It's not The Long Road Home. It's like 1,000 Miles Between Us or something like that. But there's a set on that where they're playing like on the floor in what looks like a gymnasium. And they're playing the song Conduit, I think, off of When Forever Comes Crashing. And there's this breakdown that's just like, this time it's war. And somebody drops in off of some rafters into the crowd, and the whole crowd just like collapses, and Jake Bannon like just runs over the backs of all kinds of people and then just gets swallowed up by the crowd. And that's a show. And then I think there's a video of Blacklisted playing This Is Hardcore one year, and they do a plugged in version of a song called The Problem Is G. And then I think it's the first track off of No One Deserves to Be Here More Than Me. I think it's Our Apartment Is Always Empty. But I think they open up the set with Our Apartment Is Always Empty, and the entire crowd is just like screaming it, and it looks so amazing. Like it's just iconic to me. Like those three kind of stand out.
All right, folks, you want to get out and pick up this new album that comes out on June 16th. And by the time this interview airs, it'll already be out there. So go pick it up. Pick up their singles right now, Arguments in Space, Protocol Assimilator, and Died in the War. Give this band a fair shot. Andrew, my man, how could folks stay in touch with She and find all this information out to purchase this new album? Anything under the name of She, how can he do that, sir?
So we have our Bandcamp, which there are links. There's links to all of this on our Instagram page. I think it's at she__AK. So there's 2 underscores. she__AK is our tag on Instagram, and we have a link in the bio for everything. So Bandcamp, I think everything will be up on Spotify, and probably iTunes and everything like that. We'll have it on all the platforms. We'll have the record. The record's available for pre-order now. We are assembling it this coming week, and it'll be shipping, probably not this coming Monday, but the following Monday, out to anybody, and just kind of try to be getting it out there.
I'll have all these links in the description. So that way, I keep doing it every interview. I'll go over here, and this is cameraman. I swear. Right there. It's going to be right here in the description down below. So that way, when this posts, you'll be able to go click on the links, go buy everything for She, and keep up with them and everything. And before I let you go, Andrew, would you care to do a promo for my show?
Hey, this is Andrew from She, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Everybody stick around. We got some great stuff coming up. You only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour. Please get out and check out our Facebook page. It has our podcast link and our YouTube link. And please get out and subscribe to that YouTube link if you like what I'm doing. And I hope you guys do, because I love bringing you guys these awesome interviews. And please get out and check out She. Pick up this new album that's already come out, this debuted album, I should say, Goodpaster. And please check out these singles. Give this band a fair shot. And Andrew, thank you so much for doing this interview, and I wish you guys nothing but the best of luck, and I hope this album sells like crazy, man.
Oh, thank you too, man. We really appreciate it. Thank you for the chance.
You're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.